This latest preview is intended on shedding a little more light on the efforts of Sucker Punch and their upcoming new ambitious story-driven adventure, Ghost of Tsushima, with hopes of the game not being delayed. If you have spent any considerable time with titles taken from the infamous franchise, you will understand that developer Sucker Punch is more than capable of crafting an engaging interactive experience centered around a lead character with a chip on their shoulder. While I was not in favor of seeing a new lead character take the helm of Infamous from the super cool and likable Cole McGrath, if I'm being honest, despite the visual splendor of Infamous Second Son, the series seemed to take a slight step backwards with Dyson and company. Nevertheless, while Infamous First Light certainly managed to put a huge smile on my face, it was probably time for Sucker Punch to move on from Infamous. Not for good by any stretch, however. Yet, if Guerrilla Games, the creators of Killzone, could construct the brilliant Horizon Zero Dawn, then it was probably time for Sucker Punch to also spread their wings and diversify their development portfolio with something bold and off the beaten path. Introducing Ghost of Tsushima, the upcoming action-adventure from Sucker Punch, launching exclusively for the PlayStation 4, with smart money saying we should also expect the game to eventually make its way over to the PlayStation 5, sometime during the flagship system's first 2 years on the market. Despite the current dilemma with COVID-19, Sony nor Sucker Punch have made any announcements that Ghost of Tsushima would be delayed, as is currently the case with The Last of Us Part 2, unfortunately. At the moment, Ghost of Tsushima is on pace to hit its June 26 launch date. Our fingers are certainly crossed. Featuring an open-world experience for players, with the game's core narrative centered around lead character Jin Sakai, one of the last samurai of the island of Tsushima. This ambitious new story takes place during the first Mongol invasion of Japan during the 1270s. Played from a third-person perspective, developer Sucker Punch plans to engulf players within this vast universe without any waypoints or guidance. So, however the player decides to engage the world is completely up to them. In essence, this is true freedom. We shall see. As showcased in the initial gameplay trailer, the player will be able to quickly traverse the world on horseback. Also, essential items such as a grappling hook will be at Jin's disposal, allowing him to access higher, seemingly unreachable areas, giving players the flexibility to perform stealth engagements and more. According to Sucker Punch, Ghost of Tsushima will feature meaningful side quests, an anthology of sorts, which run very close in story proximity to the game's main campaign. While some side quests will maintain unique story designs, some offer revelations to the main fixed narrative. Combat in Ghost of Tsushima will not be a walk in the park either. However, by no means should players expect a Dark Souls Sekiro combative challenge. Yet the engagement here will most certainly keep players on their toes. Players will engage in confrontations with multiple enemies, using weapons such as the Katana Blade and many others, which Sucker Punch has been very hush-hush about thus far. As Jin increases in notoriety, players will also be able to chain up an impressive series of devastating attacks, once enemies are highlighted. Alternatively, if you choose not to engage head-on, players can utilize Jin's stealth abilities, allowing him to evade enemies and strike silently from the shadows. Organically, and if players choose to. As explained by Sucker Punch, Jin can engage in 1v1 duels with random NPCs to fine-tune their skills. So similar to the likes of Sekiro, where players could better their ergonomic dexterity without dying, players have the chance of engaging in combat to just tighten their skills. As mentioned before, Ghost of Tsushima is depicted in the late 13th century on a beautiful open-world canvas, showcased with meticulously crafted regions. Throughout, players will inhale vast countrysides, fields, tranquil shrines, ancient forests, villages, mountainscapes, and landmarks. The world is populated with rich characters, some friends, and according to Sucker Punch, many are foes. With the invasion of the powerful Mongol army, the island of Tsushima becomes the final obstacle between the mainland of Japan and a massive Mongol invasion fleet. Devastated by the first Mongol wave, The island's samurai forces fight against impossible odds, leading to their inevitable defeat. Jin Sakai, one of the few surviving samurai of his clan, has his world shattered. Now Jin must decide to continue fighting the way he has been trained for so many years, or switch it up, and adapt unconventional methods of combat. Through this resolve, Jin goes through a warrior metamorphosis, coming out on the other end as the Ghost. Ultimately, Jin must fight for the freedom and independence of Japan. Developer Sucker Punch has mentioned that Ghost of Tsushima would be a fictional departure from the historical events from the actual invasion that happened almost 800 years ago. However, the studio still tapped into cultural experts and took trips to Japan for research, and worked with Sony closely on getting the depiction of Japan just right. With Ghost of Tsushima, players also should expect true Japanese authenticity throughout. Depending on how Ghost of Tsushima reaches its conclusion, and examining how well Sucker Punch made the infamous series one of the staple franchises for the PlayStation 3, Ghost of Tsushima could very well become one of the most recognized new IPs as we enter the next console generation. And there you have it.